Hello everyone, I am Moses. I am a second year medical student studying in Georgia, and in this video we'll be going over the ANKI Mobile application. Since this is a beginner's guide, we'll be starting right from the basics, and throughout the video I'll be sharing some tips and some insights about the app. And also by the end of this video, I'll share how I make the most of it as a medical student. This video will be long, so I will divide it into segments so you can skip right to the part you'd like to watch. So yeah, let's begin. Okay, so what is ANKI? So for those of you all who don't know what ANKI is or what it does or what flashcards are, I'll get to that in just a bit. But before that, I want you all to answer a question. This is a medical anatomy related question, but I think anyone can give it a shot. So the question is, which bone in the human body does not articulate with any other bone? Articulate meaning it's not attached to any other bone. If you've already gotten the answer, great. But if not, which I hope the case is, I want you all to think of what the answer might be while I'm explaining what ANKI is. And once I'm done explaining, I promise I'll give you the answer. Okay, so what is ANKI? ANKI is a flashcard software which makes flashcards. Okay, so what are flashcards then? Flashcards are a method of studying. What does that mean? Let's say, for example, you study better by reading a book. It helps you retain information better and you find it convenient and it gets the job done. Well, some people like to listen to audiobooks. It helps them retain information better. And some people, they prefer solving practice questions as they are learning, and that helps them in the tests as well. Similarly, reviewing flashcards is also a study method where traditionally you have a piece of paper and on its front side you write down a question and on its back side you write down the answer. And then once you have enough of such cards, you form a deck of flashcards. And then this deck can be of a topic or it can be of a subject depending on how vast or how small the material is. And once you're reviewing this deck, you come across this card, right? You read the question and then you try to answer it. So you think, and then you say out your answer. You say it out loud. And then you turn the card around to see whether it matches with your answer or no. Depending on whether the answer is correct or incorrect, you will sort it in this deck. Okay, so what does that mean? Let's say you've gotten the card correct, which means you're familiar with the card. So there is no need for you to keep reviewing it again and again. So you will place this card at the back of the deck since you are already familiar with it. But let's say you got the card incorrect. So you will place this card somewhere at the start of the deck since you're not familiar with it and you don't know the answer. So you'll keep reviewing and then you come at this incorrect card. And then hopefully you will get it correct this time, close to correct. And then as you are getting to familiarity, then you start moving the card a bit back until eventually you're really familiar with it and you know the answer, then it goes at the back. So this is the basic gist of what flashcards are and how they work. Now, most of you all will be thinking to yourself that this is such a tedious and such a complicated way of studying as opposed to just, simply reading a book or solving questions at the back of the book. And you're right, this is a very complicated and unnecessary, I wouldn't say unnecessary, just a very tedious method of studying as opposed to what I previously mentioned. So this is where our Lord and Savior ANKI comes into play. Since ANKI is a software, it has its own algorithm, and this algorithm does all the heavy lifting for you. All the sorting of the cards is done by ANKI. So ANKI sorts your cards not only on the basis of if you've gotten them correct or incorrect, it also has a difficulty parameter. Let's say you've gotten a card correct, but it was difficult for you and it took you a while to get to the answer. Now, traditionally, you can't do anything about it in the sorting process. But since ANKI has an algorithm and it has all these numbers which do the calculation, it has these four options. One of them is for the incorrect one, but three of them based on the difficulty of the card. Let's say you had a card and you answered it pretty easily and it was very easy for you and you just got it instantly. So you will click on the easy option. And similarly, if it was okayish for you and you still got the answer but it wasn't that great, then you'll click on the good option. And if it was really tough for you but you still managed to get to the answer, you'll click on the hard option. And if you didn't get the answer at all, you'll click on again or the incorrect option. What does that do? What does clicking on these buttons do? So these buttons are linked to a corresponding time period. So let's say you clicked on the easy button. Over top of easy, there will be a timestamp, right? A time period. For easy, it is usually 4 weeks. So once you hit the easy option, ANKI's algorithm will next show you this card after 4 weeks. So this is the sorting in ANKI. Similarly, if you hit good, which is the which is on the higher difficulty as opposed to easy, it would show you this card after 1 week. And similarly for hard, it would show you in 3 days or 2 days. And if you've gotten it incorrect, it will show you the card in under a minute, since you're not familiar with the card and you should keep revising it. And yeah, that's basically what ANKI does and why it's so useful and why so many medical students, including myself, preach about ANKI as it's the gold standard of making flashcards, as opposed to other apps such as Quizlet, which don't really have an algorithm. You yourself have to go and pick out the deck you want to study, and it doesn't sort any cards for you. It's just in the order you've set them in and how you use it. I've used Quizlet, so I can talk about it. It was useful back when I was in my school, but now since I'm a medical student and there's just vast amounts of data, I prefer using ANKI. And yeah, that's about it. So now I hope you've gotten the basic idea of what ANKI is and what it does and what flashcards are. Congratulations, now you know something about ANKI. And yeah, that's about it. We'll get to the downloading process in just a minute. But remember, I had asked you a question at the start of this video. The question was, which bone in the human body does not articulate with any other bone? So the answer to that question is the hyoid bone, which is present in the throat. So yeah. I hope you all were thinking about what the answer was and you just didn't forget it. And in case you're wondering why I even asked you this question in the first place and how is it related to ANKI in any way, I'll give you the explanation at the end of the video. So just stick around if you want to know. But if you've already pieced it together on why I asked the question, great, good for you. But if you don't know why I asked it, just stick around. I promise the explanation it's really nice. Not nice, it's okay. So yeah, let's get to the downloading process of ANKI. Okay, so now I'll be moving on to how to use ANKI Mobile and its basic beginner's guide. And just a disclaimer, ANKI Mobile is a paid app as opposed to its Windows or Mac counterparts, which are free. And I personally didn't have access to either of those while I was in Georgia, so I only had my iPad, so I have paid for it. and I do not regret using it. As a matter of fact, I'd go as far to say I'd use this paid version as opposed to those free versions. I'll get to that in just a minute and how it is useful as a medical student who has access to an iPad or any iPad or any tablet for that matter. I think on Android as well you can download ANKI Mobile and the price remains same. So yeah, let's move on to the downloading process of ANKI. As you can see on your screen, this is my iPad. So we'll just go to the App Store and we'll search for ANKI. And it's this app over here. Since I've already paid and downloaded the app, it's not asking me for anything. But for those who will be downloading it for the first time, it would show 25 USD. You pay it and then download the app. I'll just hit update. Okay, now the updating process is done. I'll simply open the app. Okay, so this would be the screen you see when you download your app, right? You would be on the profile section. Since I've been using this app for an entire year, I have both of my semesters here, but for new users, it would show default as the first profile. So you can click on the default or you can make a new one. I'll make a new one for this video and we'll title it. Okay. And this is the default screen for ANKI Mobile. Nothing fancy going on here, just you have your default tech, you have add export, synchronize. Now, your first preferences should be imported, which would be your theme. So we just go into settings and we'll go into theme. Depending on whether you are a light mode guy or a dark mode guy, you can change it however you want. It's your preference really. And you can change the bar styles over here. Doesn't really matter. You can force your night mode on or off. That's a personal preference. That's in the theme section. And what else is there in the settings tab? Nothing really important over here. Nothing you need to change to be able to use the app or make your experience any better. Okay, so right now we are in the scheduling tab and try not to mess with this settings that much. This is basically on when your day starts and how often you're going to get your cards. So let's say you finished a deck and you want to learn ahead, right? You've done with your cards and in that deck itself you just want to learn ahead. You want to cram cards. Let's say you have a test, so you would just change this to however ahead cards you want to study. Let's say you've hit easy and those cards are really ahead, they are 4 weeks ahead, so you just put a really high number and then you'd get to see those cards. But again, there are other ways of seeing or cramming cards. So yeah, that's basically it. You shouldn't mess with your scheduling tab all that much. Notifications, I generally don't have my notifications on, but if you would like to see your notifications, you can click them. Alert when due, it would show when your cards are due, and the time you can set it accordingly. Let's say you start reviewing your cards at 8 o'clock in the morning, so you'll get a notification at 8. It's totally a personal preference. Okay, so now I will walk you through how to make a basic flashcard, and then I'll show you how I make the most of it as a medical student, and I'll show you the different types of flashcards on this app. Yes, there are types of flashcards as well, and it's not that difficult to understand. As a matter of fact, it would make your learning experience in medical school a lot easier if you follow these study methods religiously. So yeah, let's click on the default tab. Congratulations, you have finished this deck. For now, it's showing us this message because we haven't really added any cards. So we would just go back to our home page And before adding cards, I'll show you how to rename your deck. So I've swiped the default towards the left direction, and just let it go, and it would show you export, rename, and delete. So I would just rename it. I would make it, I'll just write it at YouTube. Okay, so now you can see two numbers here, 0 0. Both of them are in gray. They are not really highlighted because essentially they are there to show you how many cards are due, and are due, basically that's about it, and how many cards you have done. Once we make cards, it will highlight itself. We'll get to that in a bit. So now adding the cards, how do you do that? You hit on the add section, which is at the top of the screen. So I hit add, and this would be your basic type of card. You won't be using it that often, but just to give you the idea of what a flashcard is on this app. So like I said before while explaining what flashcards are, you have a front side, you have a back side, and then this is a tags option. You can tag your cards, I think based on their difficulty or whatever you want to tag it as. So let's say you need it for next week's quiz, so you just put in a tag. But again, I don't use this setting that often, and you don't really need it. The two important settings are, or the two important brackets are the front and the back one. So in the front, I would write a question. So again, let's go with the question we had answered earlier, which was and then you would write down the answer, which is there. That's it, and we would hit save. The important thing to remember is to notice the type, which is basic, and deck, which is YouTube, for this example. And I've made this mistake countless times that I didn't notice which deck it was on, and it went to some other deck, and then I would have to search it up and then browse it and then move it back. That's a very tedious process. So just a tip, be very mindful of which decks you are adding your cards in. It has happened, I've just click on this correct deck where I want my cards and it goes somewhere else. So just be mindful of that. Okay, that's about it. And I would hit save. Okay, let's go back. And this is the answering or reviewing tab. Since you've added a card, now it will show one card in blue because it's unanswered. So I'll go there. Which bone in the human body does not articulate with any other bone? On the bottom of the screen, you can see there are three numbers. So the number in blue is the number of new cards which you haven't answered. The one in the orange lettering would be the hard cards which you haven't gotten correct or which are in hard difficulty. And the green ones are the upcoming cards which have been easy for you, or you've solved them and they are in the easy section. So these are the three basic numbers, and you don't really have to do anything, and just you think and then you give your answer. The answer is hard bone. This is the back side of the card, and as I had mentioned previously, you will have 4 options, and depending on whether this card was difficult or easy for you, you select each of these 4 options. And as you can see, for easy you have 5 days, for good you have less than 10 minutes, for hard you have less than 6 minutes, and for incorrect you have less than 1 minute. There is no need to be intimidated by these numbers. They basically mean when will they show you this card again. So for good it will show you it in under 10 minutes. It's not that difficult to grasp. And yeah, for hard it will show you in under 6 minutes, and if it's incorrect it will show you in under a minute. And if it's easy, which it was for us, it will show us in the next 5 days. Since there are no other cards in this deck, we will hit the easy options, and then it will show us congratulations, you have finished this deck for now. If you want, you can do custom study. So this custom study feature is the one which I use personally when I want to cram cards, when I want to cram all the cards I've made for a deck. That's how you make a basic card in a basic deck. Okay, now let's go back to our home page, and let's say you want to add a sub deck, and there is not really an option for that, or how to add a deck. I haven't explained that part. So how do you add a deck? So I will click on the add and export tab, and this option shows up. None of them required except for add empty deck. So add empty deck, you can add this is a personal preference. If you want to make separate profiles for a subject, or you want to add all the subjects into one profile and then have multiple profiles for your semesters. This is a personal preference. I was talking about profiles back then, and then if you have one profile in which you have all the subjects, then you can title your decks on on different subjects. It can be anatomy, histology, physiology, all clumped in one deck, or you can have them separately in different profiles. That's a personal preference. Yeah, we were making a deck, so I'll hit on deck, and let's say I want to make a new deck on a topic anatomy, on the subject anatomy. So right, okay, hit OK, and now I have a deck titled anatomy, and that's great. You can add cards in the way I have taught you. But if you want to make a sub deck, which I had made in my first sem profile, what you do is you click on add, and then you add empty deck, because there's not really an option of adding sub deck. This is the only way. So what I will do is I'll write the name of my main deck, which is anatomy, make sure the spelling is correct, and then I would add 2 semicolons, 1, 2, and then I would write the name of the new deck, which is, let's say I'm studying skeletal system. Okay, so as you can see, there is a plus sign beside anatomy, and if I hit on this plus, you see the skeleton system. And that's how you add these cards, basically, decks and subdecks. And I think you can do this as much as times you want. So let's say I want to add an even smaller deck in our subdeck of skeletal system. So I'll write the name of our main deck, anatomy, then semicolons, and then system, and then another 2 semicolons. I don't think this is a semicolon. I don't know what it's called, but okay. And then another deck if you want. And yeah, that's pretty much it. You can keep making as many decks as you want based on how many topics you have. That's totally up to you how you want to segregate your material. I prefer to only have one subdeck, as I don't need that many. Yeah, that's pretty much all you need to know about making decks. How to delete a deck. So again, you left swipe over any deck, and then you have the options of exporting it, renaming it, or deleting it. It took me a while to get to this, to know how to delete it, because if you long press, nothing really happens. So I had to just figure it out, and eventually I'm like, oh yeah, that's about it, how to make a basic deck. So let's go back to our YouTube section where we've added a card. Let's add another card, and this time I'll click on the type, which is basic right now, As you can see, there are many different types of cards. You have basic and reverse card, you have basic and option reversed. There are basically different types. The most common ones which I use are CLOZE and image occlusion. These are the most popular settings for medical students, and as far as I know, in the Mac and Windows version of ANKI, you would have to import these settings from their website. But it's great that these guys have already pre-made these settings in the ANKI Mobile app. Great, because these two are the most commonly used. You won't have to do anything, this is already there. So let's go over the close section. And as you can see, it's written type close, and be sure to check the deck of where you're adding. Okay, so now instead of the traditional front and back tab, you have the text and you have back extra. Okay, so this type of card, close, is basically used for fill in the blanks. So instead of asking a question, how many bones are in the which bone in the human body does not articulate to any other bone, question mark, and then the answer, you would put a statement. So common example, mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell, very basic one, and I want to make mitochondria as fill in the blank, so I put dash is the powerhouse of the cell, which would be mitochondria. So I'll show you how to do that. Okay, so to make a blank, what I would do is I would double tap on mitochondria and I would hit this bracket icon with 3 dots in the middle. Once I do that, it would show C1 and then mitochondria in the brackets. And what that will do is I'll show it to you. So this is the closed type of flashcard. As you can see, there is a fill in the blank. Dash is the powerhouse of the cell. Mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. Great. Depending on the difficulty, again, you sort it. Now, what if I wanted a card with something else as the fill in the blank or multiple fill in the blanks? So again, the same statement. Okay. So instead of making mitochondria, I can do it for anything. This can be my card, this can be my blank. So what is the C1? C1 basically means card 1. What does that mean essentially? Now, let's say in a statement I want 2 things in blanks, or I could want them in blanks in separate times, in separate cards. So how that works is basically, let's say I want 2 fill in the blanks in the same card. So I would click on cell and then again the bracket option, and as you can see, it says C2 instead of C1, which means that I would have one card which has powerhouse as the blank, and then I would have another card which would have cell as a blank. So let's say if I want both of these fill in the blanks in the same card, so I would change C2 to C1, and then let's hit on save. And as you can see, this is how it turns out. Mitochondria is the dash of the dash. What? Mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. That's pretty much it about close. And you should use close when you have statements, long lengthy statements which you want to remember just the way are. I don't recommend rote memorization as it doesn't work. I hope that you read the material and you understand what it is essentially, and just don't do rote memorization. Obviously it is required, but I hope you learn whatever it's written instead of just memorizing it. It doesn't help anyone. And This software is built for this rote memorization to aid your understanding even better. So CLOZE, I use CLOZE personally to memorize long lengthy statements which have many keywords which you can have as blanks. And then I have shown you how to make 1 or 2 flashcards with these blanks. Now let's move on to the other and more commonly used type of flashcard which would help you a lot, especially in your anatomy quiz where you are quizzed on what a part of the body might be, or what does it innervate, or where is its origin and where does it attach, origin and insertion basically. So that type is image oculation. As the name suggests, it has something to do with an image. Okay, so now let's move on to the image oculation section. This is the one which I use very often and it has helped me in my anatomy quizzes, which revolve around identifying which bone is in the human body and what is the part on that bone. So what is image oculation? Basically, you have an image of a bone, a part, or anything, and it has labels, right, to help students understand what it is. So what image oculation does is that you cover up the labels, right? So you don't know what this part is on that image, and then you try to answer what this might be, and that's how you learn the entire image, the parts on that image. And it's a really helpful tool which has helped me a lot. So let's just get to how to make it. So we are already at the image oculation tab. I click on image oculation, we are already on it. Then you have to press on the 2 overlapping squares. So I'll press over there and it says add media. Media meaning the image which you want to import and which you want to study. So that can be from your clipboard, from your camera, from your photos, from anything. So what I do is I use GoodNotes. So let's open something up. Since we are at anatomy, let's open Gray's anatomy. And let's go to, I don't know. Okay, great. Let's take this image. So you can use this on any other app, that's not an issue. I'm just showing how I usually export images. So click on copy, screenshot, and then we'll copy. I don't even have to save the image. So I go on my ANKI and I'll save from clipboard and it directly picks it up. Allow paste, and here we have our image. So there are many options here, mask, note, and then you have this. That's important one. So let's first start by covering up our labels. So these are the different shape of labels. I usually use the rectangle one, and I would just drag it across the label. Let's say on hide trapezes. I prefer doing this for all labels, but let's say there are some parts of an image which you don't want to study, either because you know them or either because they're not that important. So you can skip parts as well. It's totally your call. And then yeah, I don't need superficial groups, so I won't highlight it. That's about it. The important part is this option of the rectangles at the top. Once I click on it, it says hide all guess one or hide one guess one. What this option means is that if you want to hide all of your cards, right, you want to guess each and every one of them separately, and that is the option of hide all guess one, which means it hides all the cards, giving you no context whatsoever on what either of these things are. Or an easier alternative is hide one guess one, where it would only hide one label and show the rest of them, and that's pretty much it. I myself prefer hide all guess one. It adds a bit of difficulty because it takes away from the context and it doesn't show you really anything. And it, but again, it's a personal preference. So I'll click on hide all guess one, and it's safe. Go back, and this is how our page would look. So now it is hiding out our levator scapulae muscle, and then depending on how it was, I'll click on again. This was trapezius, good. This is lats, good. Okay, so this is pretty much it about image occlusion, and yeah, that's pretty much it about ANKI Mobile. As you can see, our cards have popped up again in the blue and green in the YouTube tab. 3 of them I haven't done. 2 of them are at the good, are pending, which I have to do. So yeah, that's pretty much it about ANKI. And then again, an important setting would be to browse, right? Let's say accidentally you put a card somewhere else. Okay, mitochondria is not really part of anatomy. Oh wait, did I add this in anatomy tab? I don't know. But let's say you want to switch it to some different tab. So I click on this. I'll click on select. And then it's 1 out of 8 selected. And then actions, I'll go to change deck. And then I want it in, let's say, some other tab. Say I want it in my anatomy, which is not really the case. I'll just, that's it. And yeah, the thing about ANKI Mobile is that there is no OK tab, and then you just have to, once you click it, you have to go back. It's a bit inconvenient as an Android user. I use Android for my phone, but yeah, that's pretty much it. Now if I go back, I'll find that card in my anatomy section, hopefully. Okay, so yeah, that was pretty concerning, but yeah, now you know how to change the position of your cards from each deck as well. So yeah, that's pretty much it about the basics of ANKI. Okay, so before wrapping up the video and sharing with you how I use the ANKI Mobile app as a med student, I would like to show you the custom study feature, which I heavily use. And it's basically for when you no longer have any further cards to review, but you still want to further study these cards ahead of your schedule. So this feature is made for that. I have opened up my first semester folder, and let's click on this. Okay, now this is the screen you see once you're finished reviewing all your cards. Congratulations, you've finished the deck for now. If you wish to study outside of the regular schedule, you can use the custom study feature, which we'll be talking about. So let's hit the icon. Okay, so now you have many options over here. What you need to do is just focus on those 3 main options, which are review forgotten cards, review ahead, and previewing new cards. Preview new cards is the same as increase today's new card limit. So I'll explain each of these options. So let's start with the first option, which is increase today's new card limit, which basically means, let's say you are allowed a certain number of new cards, right? And let's say you want more than usual, you want more cards than usual. Let's say each day you are shown 10 new cards. How will you know how many new cards you are shown? It's the blue number which is beside your deck, and you want more cards than your scheduled time. So you will hit increase new cards, and depending on how many new cards you want to review, you can add 10, 100, whatever. That's totally up to you and how you want to review. This has nothing to do with cramming. Cramming is about review forgotten cards and review ahead. We'll get to that. Again, same for review, increase today's review card limit. Again, let's say if you have a daily limit of 50, but you want to review 100 cards. So then you increase today's review limit by another 50. That's pretty much it. I haven't used this feature. What I use for custom study is review forgotten cards. Review forgotten cards, review ahead. These are the two main options you would need the most. Let's click on review forgotten cards. And days to look back, I'll click on. What this means is basically the review forgotten cards. It will show you the cards which you weren't that familiar with. So you've had them tough, you've had them hard, you've clicked the again option on them. So you weren't familiar with these cards from day one. So these are forgotten cards. They fall in your forgotten cards category. So let's say I have had this new card. For example, I've made a new card and I couldn't answer it yesterday. So I made it yesterday and I couldn't answer it on that day. So days to look back, when I want to review this card today, I will put days to look back as 1. Let's say I made this card a week back and had forgotten it then, and I still haven't become familiar with it. So I just put 7 instead of 1. You get the idea. So it depends on how back you want to look at the forgotten cards. So if I click 1, I think it should show the one card I purposefully was clicking hard on. That was the reason. But what if I want to review ahead? And this feature is especially useful for cramming. Review ahead, and then I just put a really large number to see all of the cards I have in this deck. So I'll just put 1000. Oh, I think I had only 8 cards in this deck. I'm not sure. Oh, yeah. So I think I have cards over 1000 days as well. So you just have to put a really large number to make sure you've gotten all the cards. And yeah, I think I have 16 cards total in this for this deck. So yeah, when you wanna cram such cards, you can use the review ahead option. And yeah, now that's pretty much it about using Anki. And now for the bonus part of how I personally use it as a medical student. I think I've shown it to you previously, but what I do is I open up GoodNotes and then I have Anki on the split screen. And then what I do is I open up tab, click on add, and image occlusion, which is already selected. You can select that from the card type, image occlusion. And then from clipboard, now I don't have anything selected on the clipboard, so let's say I want this. I want to study this, so I've studied about this. What I would do in GoodNotes is that I'll select this entire image, I'll screenshot this, and then I'll copy, and then copy from clipboard, allow paste, and then I can cover up anything I want to, which I want to study. I'll check the option hide all guess one and then save. That's how I make the process of studying through Anki a bit more convenient, and this has helped me a lot in studying anatomy specifically because it requires memorization of images. So yeah, that's pretty much how I use it. I hope you all learned something from this video and you would consider purchasing this app. And also, why I purchased this app is because you can't really have split screen on your laptop, and then that would be difficult considering I take my notes on my iPad as well, right? If I had my notes on my laptop, then it would have been the same. But since I have everything on my iPad, it's 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 more convenient than having notes and books on your iPad and then importing it onto Anki on your Windows or Mac. That's pretty much everything I can give to you about Anki, and I hope you all learned something from this. And yeah, let's get back to why I asked you that question. So again, what is the bone which does not articulate with any other bone? I hope most of you all still remember the answer, and I genuinely hope you remember the answer. Well, that's because you remember it because you were thinking about it, right? If I had given you the answer without giving you time to think about it, the setup of the question was I would ask you a question, I would give you time to think, and then I would give you the answer instead of just directly giving it to you. So the point of me giving it to you later was that you think about it. Thinking about the question makes you retain the information better. And this is the basic principle on how flashcards operate. It's not about how you position the cards really, it's about how much you think about this card. And yeah, I hope you all understood what this entire app is, what it does, and I would explain how flashcards work in a separate video. That's an entire different process, and it would be too much to add to this video. So this is the basic beginner's guide of ANKI Mobile. I hope you all learned something, and yeah, that's about it for this video. Thank you for watching, and I will see you all in the next video.